thought I'd do a quick relationship question reading because a lot of people um, have questions regarding relationships right now, and obviously, because we've all been locked up together in quarantine, emotions have been running high, and energetically things can have been a bit intense depending on who you are holed up with right now. So the question that I thought that I would ask, which could be the best help for the most people, is will my relationship survive this? It's an issue that's been talked about a lot out there at the moment, about how this is a kind of make or break situation for a lot of relationships, a lot of marriages. And while some are improving and healing and getting better, others are crumbling and falling apart and turning really toxic. So I thought, while we're all muddling through this, it would be good to ask a question about this, and I think that would be really helpful for people out there who are just worrying about their relationships and wondering what to expect, really, moving forwards. So I pulled two cards. The first card was the Emperor. So the Emperor is the energy ruling your relationship house at the moment. Yeah, so that's the kind of like the energy that is the most forceful and present. So for some of you, that will be seen as a good energy, and others it will be a bad energy, depending on, I guess, where you're sitting within your relationship. The Emperor is a proud card and a powerful card, and the Emperor rules. He rules. So in terms of your relationship, this is the other person in the relationship. So I'm saying that there's a bit of a power struggle going on at the moment, and the relationship is being dominated by this energy, this archetype of the Emperor. And maybe the other person is, acting like the Emperor, a bit aloof, a bit hard, a bit cold, a bit high and mighty, sitting there proudly on their throne, feeling very comfortable, a bit like a king. But kind of like residing over all domains. So not just kind of physical kingdom domains, but also spiritual domains as well. And maybe that's kind of feeling a bit uncomfortable for you on the other side of that right now, because this person that you're used to living with has perhaps changed and become a bit colder and a bit harder, or a bit more kind of like aloof or high and mighty. But what we need to kind of like look at is the fact that this person might have changed due to the circumstances going on, because obviously we're all under stress right now, whether we're consciously aware of it anymore or not. I think the problem with the fact that we've been in quarantine for so long now, more than 6 weeks, depending on what country you're in, is that it's kind of easy to become desensitized now, I think. Unless, if you're watching the news every day, perhaps not. But if you're a spiritual person and you're a sensitive person and you're kind of trying to keep yourself away from the news, or limiting your intake of it because it's just a bit too much, a bit too intense, a bit too fear-based and scary, then perhaps you're starting to feel a bit dissociated from everything and a bit detached and less worried really about the virus on a daily basis. But we have to remember that underneath we are still all kind of like going through this. We're all processing it in our own way. And as much as we have days of peace and calm and feeling quite comfortable and content in our houses, we then have other days which are all over the place emotionally and really challenging, because we have no idea what's coming in the future. So just try to bear that in mind when you are looking at and interacting with and reaching out to that other person in your life, be they with you physically in person in the place that you're living in, or you might even be separated right now. So just bear that in mind, that maybe their behaviour and how they're acting is just a way of dealing with this crisis. Yeah, it's their coping mechanism. And we can look at the sitting on the throne and being aloof and detached and a bit cold, as a kind of social distancing, really, as a, you know, they almost like they've walked into another room and shut the door. And kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go into this room and shut the door because I've just got so much I need to deal with right now, and I can't deal with this on top. So I just need this to be an easy, comfortable space with no conflict or turmoil. So that could be, you know, what you're experiencing right now. Understand that this person has, you know, we can see by the cards on the card, there is a lot of anger going on. And also with the, so that's the red, is the anger and issues with basically their roots and how grounded they do or don't feel. The feet are off the ground, so that's kind of like suggesting that they don't feel very grounded right now, they don't feel very connected, they feel like they're floating all over the place. There's also a lot of yellow, which is about intuition and gut instinct, and I think it's like they're focusing on trying to feel their way through this, figure out what is the best course to steer, how can they best protect themselves and you, and your lives together. So yeah, and then there's a lot of like kind of stone and grey, and that is also, you know, about foundations and structure, and maybe, you know, like the lives that you have built, the house that you have built, etc. You know, whether you own it or rent it or whatever, it's like we've all built a life for ourselves, and prior to this crisis we kind of knew where we stood in all of that, and then now suddenly, because of the restrictions that have been imposed, you know, our lives are completely different, and some of us aren't working at all, so we have different worries, different concerns, not just about being sick and what might happen to us or our loved ones, but also about, you know, how we're going to, you know, move forward into the future and feed ourselves and clothe ourselves and house ourselves, and, you know, keep our jobs or our businesses running and everything. So that this person is really like, just, that is, you know, that's what's crowning their life at the moment. That is the thing that is in charge. And then also, you know, there's the blue sleeve on this person, so it's like they are trying to find their voice and let their voice out there, but it's with a clenched fist. They're very apprehensive about what to say and how to say it, and there's only a tiny bit of that blue true voice there on that right sleeve visible, and the rest is all red and powerful and angry and uprooted. So try and bear with them. Trust that they know what they're doing, and they will, you know, steer their way through this, and they are looking out for your best needs. Or perhaps not, you know, look at this card and see what it says to you. Is this card reassuring to you or not? I think that's the best thing, really. And then moving to the next card is Strength. So this is the card that is for you. This is you. It's giving you encouragement. It's saying, look, you might be living with a lion right now, and that might be pretty difficult, because the lion energy is very masculine and very strong and very powerful and very kind of like, you know, it's animal. It's instinctive. It just reacts. It just does. It's not human, so it doesn't moderate itself, and it's not necessarily thinking about those around it. It literally is just impulse driven. So this card is encouraging you basically to trust your own intuition. There's lots of yellow again, and there's green too, and it's like the green beneath your feet. So it says basically that this is a time of deep, deep healing for you, yeah, and a time of opening your heart up. Green is the heart chakra as well, so it's all basically about like roaming your own garden and keeping that beautiful and healthy and fertile, and trusting your intuition. And it's saying, you know, it is safe to pet this lion, it is safe to reach out to them and give them your love, because you are coming from a heart-centered place. You are coming from a place where you are doing your own healing, and therefore your hands will have healing for this poor little lion. So have strength and believe that you are protected, that you are being watched over, and that basically you are coming from a place of peace. You're all dressed in white, and you're covered in like nature, you know, green and the red, the kind of like the flowers growing on this beautiful wreath. So you just trust that everything will be okay. There's a mountain, a grey mountain in the distance, suggesting that, that there will be obstacles, there will be a journey, but so long as you basically trust to your own strength, and do your best to befriend the lion. And you could even look at it and think, well, this lion is the lion inside of me, this lion is the fiery power inside of me that just wants to, lash out and protect myself, defend my boundaries, stop this other person from hurting me, or disrespecting me, and this card is saying here, pet your lion, calm your lion down. You don't need to silence your lion, but just reassure your lion by putting your hands over its, over its nose, over its mouth, where its voice is coming out. Just put some love into that space, so that it's not just angry and violent, it's also loving. You don't need to defend yourself quite so fiercely. So however you choose to read these cards, I hope that's been helpful. And if you have a question specifically that you would like to pose, do feel free to send me a message, and I'd be happy to help. All right, okay.